Hello, hello.
Hello. So, as I mentioned the other day, that seems too loud. As I mentioned the other day, I'm McCarty. This is Kelly.
Kelly, yes.
As I mentioned the other day, or last week, or whatever, we're going to Six at the end of May, which I'm so excited about. Six the musical, and so I wanted to start.
Did you get down?
Dennis,
That's Dennis.
get away, get away. I wanted to start talking about the Six Wives
Of Henry VIII.
of Henry VIII. So this is
Keep
a
it
book I got pretty much all of my information from. And then I'm going to start with Katherine because she's the first one. So let me just pull that up. So Katherine of Aragon, she's the first wife. She's obviously from Aragon, which is
In France?
no
Spain?
Spain. I'm kind of confused on if because like they kind of intertwine Castile and Spain and Aragon in the book. So I know her mother was queen of like Castile and Spain in a unified Spain, and her dad was from Aragon. What is that it? I don't know. It's all weird. She's Katherine of Aragon. She's the daughter of Queen Elizabeth and Ferdinand. She was born in 1486 in Castile. Henry VII had just finished the War of the Roses and taken the throne. So he kind of has like a really tenuous claim to the throne.
France?
England. Because he usurped, because prior to this it had been the Yorks and the Lancasters. And this is the Tudors.
Not to be confused with the Lannisters. But basically, I think Game of Thrones has a lot.
I think it's like
The War
kind
of
of based
the
on
Roses, there's a lot of that in Game of
influence
Thrones.
in Game of Thrones. So, anyway, he's looking to strengthen his, because this is a new, totally different line. It's a Tudors, instead of
The
the
Plantagenets.
Plantagenets. Yes. There's a map in here somewhere, but I don't know. So, Henry VII, who is Henry VIII's dad, obviously, is looking to strengthen his claim to the English throne by forming a marriage alliance with Castile. So, that's how, like, all of this works. It's like,
No one got married unless it was, like, no one rich or famous or powerful got married without it being beneficial for someone.
that's why Queen Victoria is called the grandmother of Europe, because all of her children and grandchildren married throughout
All
of
the
Europe.
powerful people in Europe.
Yeah,
and
got
they had
married
a
to her
lot
kids.
of-
She
they
had
a lot of
like
kids.
12 kids or 9 kids or something, and so many grandkids. Like, one of them goes to Russia,
Prince
Australia.
Philip was her grandkid, and so was Prince Elizabeth. So,
But I do think they loved each other.
well, yeah.
But still. Anyway, so they're trying to get this marriage, so they're both enemies of France. So this will kind of help ally them with, or they'll be allies against France. And they both get kind of what they want. They get, their daughter gets to be queen someday, and and then also
Did Henry?
the dowry.
Sorry, did Henry have an older brother that she was married to first?
Hold your horses. So, during this time, there's a bunch of negotiations. They're kind of trying to settle, like, the dowry, which, if you don't know, the dowry is basically a payment to the husband's family by the daughter's family. It's dumb, whatever. So,
The patriarchy.
yes. Boo. So, they have all these negotiations. A marriage contract was signed March 27th of 1949. Catherine would marry Henry's son, Arthur, his firstborn, and he would get a significant dowry from Spain. And
Can we pause for a second? Why? Okay. Is Henry his given birth name, or is that the name he became when he was a king?
that's his birth name.
So I wonder why they named the second son Henry.
Because
Not Arthur.
Henry the Seventh was trying to get his, at least that's what this book says. This is The Six Wives of Henry VIII by Alison Weir. Apparently it's like the best book on the subject. Yeah. So she mentions in here that he wanted to further strengthen his role of the king, and so he named his son Arthur. Round tables, Camelot ties it to like the original European king or English king trying to go back. They did this a lot. Like, everyone claims to be Caesar's relative. Everyone claims to be relative of this person and that person to strengthen their line of throne. So, Arthur and Catherine are born roughly the same year. I don't know months or anything, but they're both 2 at this time.
So she was older than him.
Henry?
Yeah.
So, she is still he's 2, so she's roughly 2. She spends her life in Spain because they're not going to send her to England until they're old enough to marry.
Which sometimes they did that. Like, it was a marriage contract, and then they would grow up together because the family would, like, ship the...
Yeah, sometimes.
Like, I think in the show Reign, it kind of portrays that. Not that Reign is... I haven't seen it, but not that it's very accurate, but I watched one episode.
Yeah, I think I watched one episode, too.
I might watch
that
one
one
season.
guy that was in Mortal Instruments. I don't know. He was also in August Rush. Anyway, so they're betrothed. They have the marriage contract. They are set to get married. So the age that he is old enough to consummate the marriage was 14. So they had to wait until he was 14. They don't care about her. He has to be 14 because that's how old he has to be to marry. She spends her whole life in Spain training to be married to the future king of England.
Is her family the king of Spain?
Yeah, her mom is the queen of Spain. So Isabella and Ferdinand, they're like...
Oh, okay.
It's the Isabella and Ferdinand.
I missed that in the beginning.
So if you know anything about, like, Spanish, whatever, they're
the ones who
unify Spain.
Sent Columbus.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, because 1492, that's we're in 1497. So she's set to move to England in 1500. That's when she's supposed to be there. Due to threats, someone else was trying to usurp the throne, and Henry VII didn't feel like safe, and his role as to the throne was still a little bit precarious. So the wedding was moved up, and it took place by proxy in 1499. So Arthur was there, and then a doctor...
They had a stand-in,
and it was a man. So they had a stand-in, and they got married to kind of...
strengthen
the alliance. Like, oh, we already married them, but it was by proxy. Apparently that was a thing. I don't know. And then the Earl of Warwick is the one who was trying to kind of usurp and take over. So once he is out of the picture, he gets hanged, or beheaded, obviously, at the tower in like the 500. So she arrives in England.
In the 500.
In the 1500. Year 1500. She arrives in England in 1501.
So they get married in 99.
And she moves there in 41. So they're roughly
1501.
1501, yes, I'm so sorry.
So 2 years after they marry by proxy, that's when they actually get together.
Yes, and so there's a large reception for her, and like streets, everything it's very big and elaborate, and they are married in person. They're sent publicly to consummate the marriage. So they are led into a room, and everyone goes and watches them in there, and then the doctor or the priest or whatever blesses them, whatever, and then the spectators leave. And then in the morning, the practice is to show the bed sheets for blood, obviously.
But sometimes they had to consummate the marriage while people were in the room.
Sometimes, yeah. It didn't say that in here because despite him coming out of the room and being like, oh yeah, like, we did it.
Fist pumping and smoking cigars.
It is thought to be that they didn't actually consummate the marriage, and Catherine later claims this
as a way to marry Henry.
Yeah, as a way to marry Henry, but also just in general, like, she still wants to be seen as that virginal bride when she marries Henry. And he has, like, a weak disposition and constitution, and so it's said that, like, maybe he wasn't able to, which I feel like is very common among royals.
Yeah.
By all accounts...
inbreeding.
Yeah. By all accounts, they were happy enough. But he continued to get kind of, like, weaker and weaker, which other people put it down to him exerting himself in the marriage bed. Even though Catherine says herself that they only slept in the same bed 6 times. After 6 months, they both come down with the virus, but Catherine, because she's a little bit stronger, she survives and Arthur dies.
I don't understand why she would. I know that she wants to like maintain this image of virginity or whatever, but it would have been perfectly fine for him to marry a widow.
No.
No?
No.
But they married their brothers' wives all the time, or is that later?
That's later. Okay, we'll get there. Give me a second. So, Catherine's future is undecided because Henry VII has already gotten the... Also, I think I'm just going to call him Henry Sr. because the 7th is just a lot. Henry has already gotten the first installment of the dowry. So they were going to get it in multiple installments. I don't know exactly... I know he got the first one when she went to England, and then he was set to get another one at some point.
Like at the first child?
Yeah, maybe. It doesn't really clarify in that. Or I didn't read close enough, I'm not sure. So, Ferdinand, which is her dad, demands Catherine is sent straight back to Spain immediately. His reasoning was that Arthur didn't hold up his end of the contract because he died without producing a son. Therefore, it's not as strong because she no longer has that tie to, the legal tie to, or even, the spiritual, religious tie to their family. So Ferdinand is like, okay, well, I want my money back. Dennis!
That is inappropriate.
Lord!
Guys, go somewhere else.
So, he's like, I want my money back. They've only been married 6 months. He goes and dies. Like, what are you having a weak son for? Get it together, Henry. And so, really, it was a ruse, kind of, because, okay, now you two.
Higgins and Delphi just got in a boxing match.
Which they do not fight.
They don't fight ever. Delphi just kind of smacked the shit out of Higgins. This is wild.
And her little face. She's so proud of herself. She's like, hell yeah. She's
Girl.
like, I might be an old lady with diabetes, but I can still fuck you up.
Delphi doesn't have a thought behind her eyes.
No, she never does. Anyway, so, it's thought that this is kind of like a ruse because Ferdinand is like, okay, well, she's already over there.
What's a ruse? That he was going to
take her back and, right now. But it's kind of a ruse because, I'm sure if Henry didn't, capitulate to the new contract that was getting signed up, because he wanted her to marry the new heir.
This was like a negotiation tactic.
Yes. The new heir being Henry VIII or Henry Jr. So, there's 2 potential objections to the union. Yes.
Does Henry have any other siblings?
Oh, yeah, he's got a whole bunch of them.
Legitimate?
Henry?
Yeah.
Henry VIII has siblings, and they're legitimate.
Did he have any other brothers?
I feel like yes. I think you might be confusing the legitimate child with his illegitimate sons.
I don't think he had illegitimate.
He does, at least one.
Oh, interesting.
I'll talk about it in a minute.
No, I was just curious if he had...
I know he has other siblings, I'm pretty sure. I don't know exactly.
I think he has a sister for sure.
He has a sister for
Margaret?
sure. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, this isn't about him. We don't care about him. So, there's 2 things that can potentially complicate this union. The first, Catherine is 5.5 years older than him. So, he's 11-ish, she's 16, he's 11-ish, depending on when they were born, in, the months. Mm-hmm. But that's significantly older for a woman to be, it's
usually the other way around.
Yeah, usually the other way around, and people might think that, she's too old and she's gonna lose her beauty and whatever. And the second one is the Bible forbade a man to marry their brother's widow, which is funny because later in the years, closer to, I'm thinking World War II, and this is a specific example in my head, but brothers were encouraged to marry their brother's widow to take care of the family members. Like my great-grandpa, his dad died, and then Bernard's brother James married my grandpa's wife.
What was her name? Pelagia.
So that was more common later, but at this time it wasn't. You couldn't do it because you were related. Where am I at here? The first was less of an issue because it was less of an issue once he became old enough to marry. So they obviously weren't going to get married right now because he's still 11 and he's not old enough to marry. The second one is everyone's talking about it.
But then if they waited till he was 14, she would have been almost 20.
She'd be 17. No.
14?
19.
Yeah, she would have been almost 20. And that's creepier. Like, because when they're 11 and 15, at least they're still both underage.
Yeah.
But I guess even the Romeo and Juliet laws, that would be still too far apart.
Yeah. And
So
also,
it's
he's
still
11,
inappropriate.
so he probably wouldn't be old enough to consummate the marriage. He probably hasn't gone through puberty yet.
I don't know.
Anyway, she's 19. He's
15?
15. Anyway, there's a huge intrigue. Like, everyone's like, psst, 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 psst. What's gonna happen? Like, they want to, like, across the Europe. So, Ferdinand hopes that they can get the Pope to, or he hopes that they can prove that Arthur and Catherine was, marriage was never consummated. And after being asked, like, they tried to do it, like, in a coy way where, like, her maid, they asked her, like, hey, did you see any blood? Like, blah, blah, blah. And then Henry is just like, older Henry is just like, did you guys have sex? Probably not exactly those words, but he was just, like, super blunt about it. And she says, although she slept with Arthur 6 nights, she remained a virgin. So that's kind of the issue. They're like, oh, okay, cool. Now we just have to get the Pope to agree. So another small issue is the French want Henry Jr. to marry Louis. What?
You put Louis.
I put Louis. Louis the 12th's daughter.
They want the boys to marry.
Yes, they're gonna have a gay wedding with their gay boyfriends. No, whoever, I didn't write down who the daughter is, but whoever the daughter was, they're trying to get a French union. So he thought to try and get, like, kind of coerce the Pope. There's a snag in the other end. Elizabeth, Henry's mother, died.
They're all the freaking same name.
Yeah, leaving Henry VII a widow. So then, it's briefly suggested that instead of marrying Catherine to Henry VIII, Henry VII marries her instead. So she goes to marry the father and not the son.
But wouldn't they be related also according to the Bible?
No, because they didn't consummate marriage.
Oh, gotcha.
So, very clearly, Elizabeth and Ferdinand are like, what the fuck? No, we are not giving you our daughter. She's 15.
You're an old, gross man.
Yeah. But then also, Henry VII didn't want to lose the dowry because had they got married, he really wants to keep this marriage between younger Henry and Catherine because he wants the rest of the dowry and he doesn't want to give back the dowry it has. So, Henry sends his request to the Pope, which ultimately the Pope grants. They're called bulls. He ultimately says, hey, that's fine. So, in 1503, she's officially betrothed to Henry VIII. And then in 1504, her mother dies. Which, so much things. So this causes upheaval in Spanish politics because Spain was held together by Elizabeth.
Isabel.
Oh yeah, Isabella. I'm so sorry. Spain is held unified by Isabella. So once she dies, there's really not a lot to hold it together because I know Ferdinand, they always put Isabella first. So I think she was the sovereign
heir.
And he was the consort. So that's all in a mess. Henry is dragging his feet because he's like, oh, well, if Spain's in it.
Henry the Younger.
No, Henry the Older. Henry the Younger is still, like, in his short pants
yeah.
and, well, he's probably started wearing breeches now, but anyway. Henry the Elder is like, well, if Spain is crumbling, maybe I can get a better.
I have power.
I have power, and maybe I can get a better alliance. So he decides that he's not going to marry her until he's paid the rest of Catherine's dowry. They were meant to be married in 1905. Obviously.
But 400 years earlier.
Yeah, 1505, when Henry turned 14. This was pushed back 4 years because of negotiations. So it's infighting. And then Catherine, during this time, she has, like, a pretty tough few years. She's being held in England. She can't go back home. Her mother is dead. She gets sick off and on because, like, the English weather is getting her down. She's not used to it. And then, obviously, like, germs.
Yeah.
So she's, like, super depressed. She even becomes, like, suicidal at one point. But during that time, her and young Henry wrote letters back and forth. He was actually, like, super charismatic when he was young, and he's also, like, very, I don't know if verbose is the right word when it comes to, like, flowery language and his, like, you see this, I don't think there's any, letters to Catherine, but there are letters from him to Anne.
He was romantic.
Romantic, yeah. And so I feel like early in this time, they are, like, kind of
falling in love.
Yeah, they're kind of into each other. I don't know if love would be the right
Falling
thing.
in like.
Yeah. So in 1509, Henry VIII becomes sick, and on his deathbed, he tells his son...
Henry VII.
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. Henry VII. This is so hard to keep track of. Henry VII becomes ill, and he's on his deathbed, and he regrets how he's treated Catherine all these years, and told his son to do the honorable thing and marry her. So some try to give in to young Henry not to marry her, because they're like, you know, there's always like that one guy whispering in the ears. In this case, it's like Thomas Wolsey and some other ones I don't know. I don't remember.
We don't care about the men. Sorry.
Yeah, we don't care about the men. So in 1509, he says he ultimately desires her above all women, loved her, and longed to marry her. So in June 1509, they're finally married, and she is made Queen of England.
So she would have been, he's like 19 and she's 24, 25?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well, so it's good they waited.
Yeah. Now they're both legal adults.
Well, I don't know. In our standards. He's not a child. So in the early years, Henry adores Catherine. He, even after, he continues to adore her and, love her throughout his life, even after the annulment. But he sees her more of, a sister and, loves her that way and still holds her in the highest regard. Mm-hmm. But he does stray. Often. And with numerous women. You always hear about, Mary Boleyn, Anne Boleyn. You hear about those ones, but he has many other ones, one of which he has an illegitimate son with later. But he's very extra. He's spending money like nobody's business. And they've gotten the second half of the dowry.
And in the beginning, not when, we know him, not when,
No, he's, super athletic. He's
fit.
Over
he's
6 feet tall. He's super strong. He's very athletic. He wins all of the
tournaments and
stuff. Yeah, and this is the time where they're doing a lot of the, jousting.
He's a prize.
Yeah, he's, over 6 feet, unheard of.
Not like this.
Back then. Yeah, he's not covered in gross wounds.
He's not overweight and gout-riddled.
So much gout. And then, wounds that would never heal.
Yeah, wounds, open sores would just be on his legs.
Yeah, disgusting.
When he was, in his late years.
Yes. So he's,
because of, gluttony.
Yeah, he's so gross. He's tons of pageants and games, and he's very popular with the court. And during this time, in the 6 years that have passed, Catherine has lost 5 pregnancies. And she's notably aged quite a bit, obviously.
Due to stress.
Due to, stress and loss and all of these things. And also by this time, she's, 30, which we all get haggard. Not really,
31,
but 30 is a little bit older back then. So she had at least 3 stillborn babies, and 2 live births. The first was a boy named Henry. Unfortunately, he did die about a month later of unknown reasons.
SIDS?
Anything. Literally, they died of everything.
And they died.
Yeah. If you... What they say is, if you lived past your first birthday, you might get to 10. And once you live past 10, you're probably going to live...
Unless there's a war.
Unless there's a war or, a plague or famine.
So you would either die, if you were a man, you would die from war. If you reached adulthood. If you didn't die in war, then you would make it to, 80. For a woman, if you didn't die in childbirth, you made it to adulthood and you didn't die in childbirth, you would live to, 80. Yeah.
Barring, Black Plague or cholera or things like that. So, she has that baby, and then in 1516, I don't remember, which order these babies are. I know there was one more after Mary, I think. But she has Mary in 1516. This is her only living child, only living daughter. She grows up to being Queen Mary.
Is she Bloody Mary or no? Or is that the married Queen of Scots?
I think she is Bloody Mary, because she's the one that's, a staunch Catholic, when Elizabeth the First is, a Protestant, and they go back and forth trying to get... Whatever, we'll get to that maybe some other time. So, Catherine had 6, maybe 8 pregnancies, and 1 daughter is all they can show for. And Henry later says, if 1 daughter, I might as well not have children.
Well, and she might have had, she had, up to 8 confirmed pregnancies. She might have had, super early miscarriages and not known.
Yeah. So him and his advisors are super angry about this. They're like, are you kidding? I'm supposed to be having males. You should have already been... I should have a handful of children by now.
And at this point, it's the woman's fault for not producing a male heir. They don't know that the men are the reason.
Or that just in general that the men have anything to do with the health of the baby.
Yeah, they don't know at this time, about the... Well, obviously they don't know about, XY, but they don't know that the man is the one who determines sex.
So
they also didn't think, like, I'm pretty sure at this time, it never crossed their mind that the man might be impotent, that he might not be able to have kids, that he might be sterile. It was always the woman's fault for being barren.
obviously,
Men,
patriarchy.
like, it was never the man's fault, even if he had, like, several wives.
Even though nowadays, like, there's new research coming out now that says the man's health and the health of the sperm is, like,
Determines a lot of the health
a
of the
lot of
pregnancy.
the health of the pregnancy.
Like, what's that one where you have high blood pressure?
Eclampsia.
Preeclampsia comes from the sperm and not the... And so does the placenta. Placenta is made... Like, the health of the sperm determines the health of the placenta. Isn't that
Insane.
wild?
It's so crazy what we learned. So Catherine is obviously getting older. She's kind of... And she's also, like, sad and depressed, and that ages her, and she...
I mean, women sometimes have a hard time with, like, infertility and postpartum. And...
Well, also, she's lost 5 babies, maybe more. So she's at that point, and Henry is in his physical prime. He's, like, mid to late 20s. He is just, like we said, tall, masculine, virile. And everyone's like, why can't they produce a son? So at this time, he's only having sex with her to have children. And then, like, she starts entering menopause, and he rarely interacts with her after that. There's whispers about all these things. He obviously has tons of mistresses. There's rumors that he started thinking about ending the marriage with Catherine as early as 1514, which would be before Catherine was born, but during those pregnancies...
before Mary was born.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm so sorry. It's never verified, but there's thoughts of it. So Henry had several mistresses, one of which gave birth to his bastard son, Henry Fitzroy, which Fitzroy is basically like the name they give to bastards' last name. It's kind of like Snow in Game of Thrones. Like, that's the name they give to bastard children.
Of the king.
Of the king, yes. So, eventually, he's so desperate to have a male heir, and at this point, they haven't just, like, come to a conclusion of what they're going to do with Catherine, so he has an act of parliament that says Henry Fitzroy is legitimate and can be heir.
Who was the mother? Was she, like, a servant? Was she, or we don't know?
Her name was Elizabeth, obviously. She was a servant of some kind. I'm not exactly sure what she did, but she wasn't, like, anyone of the court or royal or anything like that. She was just a common person. But Catherine is super offended. She's like, are you kidding me? This is a public snub against her. So she has only 2 things that bring her joy. Catherine, she's so depressed. She's just, life is not worth the living. She's kind of relegated to a different castle, where, like, not in London, or maybe it's in London, but it's not where Henry is, and they don't really see each other.
Well, I think he spent a lot of time at Hampton Court.
Yeah, that's why he built it.
Just outside of London.
Yeah. The only thing that brings her joy is her religion and Mary. She's going to church 5 times a day, 6 times a day. She's doing, like, she is devout Catholic, and she...
Oh, she's Catholic.
Yeah, Spain.
Oh, yeah.
And he's spending very little time with her.
Is he Catholic at this point?
Yeah, everyone is. Catholic means... So we haven't hit the
Reformation.
Reformation yet. So basically everyone's Catholic. There might be...
Catholic mean one true church or something?
It means universal church.
Gotcha.
So then there might be rumblings of Martin Luther, kind of like in Germany where it kind of all starts, but over in England, they're staunchly Catholic. By 1527, their marriage is essentially over. Their age gap is wider than ever because she is going through menopause. He is, still young. Plus, he doesn't have all of the stress and heartbreak that Catherine does. So, as far as he's concerned, their marriage is good as childless. He used religion to prove that their marriage was against God because she'd been married to the brother, which made the marriage incestuous. So he's like trying to turn it back, and he's like, oh, you know what? God hates us because we got married and we shouldn't have.
And that's why we have so many miscarriages.
And that's why God is upset with us. So he begins to question the Pope, which at this point, heresy. Like, you can't question the Pope's word is law, even over the king. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like what starts all of this.
Because it's like God, the Pope, and then the king.
The Pope, who is the vessel of God.
Yeah.
Which, God, more men being better than everyone else. So he starts questioning this, and at this point he's desperate for an heir because he's not old, but he is getting older. And I think probably at this time
he's like a full adult.
He's a full adult, probably in his 30s. I'm pretty sure he's already had that one lance go through, or like jousting accident. He's probably getting fatter. I'm not
This
really...
is earlier, like, I'm thinking more like Bridgerton era, but like, I feel like in this time period...
Oh my god, we're so much earlier than Bridgerton.
Well, yeah, I know, but I feel like the same thing applies where women get married younger and men are bachelors until like...
Yeah.
Like, he's around the time where all of his friends are going to get married too, I think.
Yeah, similar to that, probably.
I don't know.
So he's desperate. He requests an annulment from the Pope. The Pope denies
He's like, no, bitch, you have a kid.
Like, yeah, no. Like, we already... I don't know if it's the same Pope, but we already, like, gave you disposition. I don't even look, because I didn't care that much. Sorry, but this is about Catherine. So, the Pope denies it. Henry's like, I don't know what to do. Catherine is set aside. He's all hopped up on Anne Boleyn. They're, at this point, exchanging letters.
Anne Boleyn was her lady's maid.
Yeah, so was Mary Boleyn. So she's, like, every night working with the Queen on the side. Although it is Anne, as far as we know,
we'll talk about Anne next week.
Yes, which I'm going to leave it here kind of on a cliffhanger, not because I want to do that and make you come back next week, but also because a lot of what happens next is because of Anne, and we're talking about Catherine. So, at this point, Catherine is set aside. Henry doesn't want to get married to her. They have Mary, which at some point, Mary, I think, is taken away from her mom.
She goes to live with nuns or something?
No, she goes to live with Henry, I think. Or, like, in the same court as Henry to grow up in the court. I'm not exactly sure.
But Catherine's, like, off.
She's in a completely different... I don't even think she's in London. She's away from court. She's kind of sequestered.
Did she go back to Spain at all?
No, she stayed in England. As far as I know. And there might be more of Catherine later on because she doesn't die until...
We should try to do, even if we're going to skip the Boleyn messiness, what happens after they get divorced? Or after their annulment?
After their annulment, again, she just kind of hangs out until she dies. She gets sick one day. She just vibes until she dies. As far as I know, that's kind of all that... I might, if we find more stuff in the Anne, I didn't want to go too far into the Anne because I knew I would get it in my brain. So she's still a big part of that because we haven't been divorced yet. But Anne...
Because they don't get divorced.
They get an annulment. So Anne's the one that pushes all for that, so I wanted to keep that in.
But do they call it divorced?
No, she gets an annulment because they weren't legally married. They work around it.
In the song, is it divorced?
Divorced and annulled is basically the same.
Okay, because I'm like, what is it in the song?
In the verse, it's divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived.
Okay.
So, and because Catherine is so entwined in the Anne Boleyn, I'm going to finish up hers next time. You're going to do the next one?
Yeah.
Okay, so she'll do that next time. Oh, I should have had you do Catherine because I want to do Anne. No, I'll do the next one. It'll be fine.
You'll do Jane or Jane.
Jane would be a good one. So yeah, we'll find out what happens. Anne is a big reason. Like, she's the one that kind of whispers in the ear and pushes for the split of the church. So that's where we leave it off here. Henry doing it out with all of his things. Although Anne maintains the whole time that she did not have sex with Henry until after he had left his wife, or after the wedding or the marriage was annulled. So at this point, they're just writing letters. I'm pretty sure she's his only mistress.
After her sister.
Yeah, they get married after. I'm pretty sure at the time of Anne Boleyn, she's the only... He's, like, infatuated, obsessed with Anne Boleyn. Yeah, that's what they say. So, we'll get to that.
I didn't hear that.
She'll get to that next week. But other than that, that's kind of where we're at. Any questions, comments, concerns?
No, I'm excited to see what's next. I know people love the Tudors. Like, if you're going to have any point in history where people are excited about it, it's going to be the Tudors because it's so messy. Which, well, like Henry.
Also, just like the ridiculousness of this man.
Yeah. Like, that's what we are as a society.
In general, it's a split from the church. And that's huge.
Yeah, a lot of things change. Henry's reign is very, like, important in English history, and I think it's what a lot of people are interested in.
And I think that's what people like actually start thinking about England.
Yeah.
Really. Like people who didn't study history, they know about this because it's like, oh, and
it's in pop culture a lot.
yeah, and Queen Elizabeth is like one of the most iconic, long-lasting and
The Virgin Queen.
Yeah, she's such an icon in royalty that I think she
Everybody
really has
knows about her.
Yeah. Plus, like, again, people are writing about the Tudors all day, every day. People are putting it on TV all day, every day. Like, you got Reign, you got the Tudors.
Reign isn't the Tudors.
Oh, it isn't? Well, there's a movie a show on Netflix about the Tudors. I watched, like, the first season, I think.
Yeah, I think that one has that Reese Meyer. He has another name. It's
that's
three
right.
names, but I don't know what his first name is.
Jonathan Reese something.
I brought pens from work, and I hate when I do that.
Anyway, that's it. We'll see you next week. I am trying to figure out how to put these on a podcast on Podbean, so if I figure that out, I will put it somewhere. Because somebody did mention that in real life. So I'll see what I can do. I don't know. I'm just vibing. You can tell. I don't even edit these. I don't even know how. But I have a new computer that's not a Chromebook. It's not new. It was my mom's. But
don't get a Chromebook. If you're gonna get a computer, don't get a Chromebook.
No, they're not
it's
good
cheap
for things.
and fancy, but you can't do anything on it.
No, like I can't upload any kind of apps. It won't do any kind of like Adobe software.
It won't let me even do any updates. I can't play Netflix on my laptop because I don't have like I can't upgrade my computer anymore. They're like, oh, you're all out of upgrades. You have to get a new computer.
Dumb. Anyway, I have that new computer, or the old computer. I'm just waiting for a cord for it because my sister lost it. Not this one,
not me.
One. And the one we found isn't the right one, so I just ordered one. But I'll figure out how to be better at these things, and we'll see what happens.
We're just growing.
We're vibing. We're learning.
We're all growing
having
together.
fun.
We're growing together. We're getting to stretch our history muscles.
Which honestly, it's been so fun.
It's been fun. I really like it. Like a lot of times, I just think of things like just a little side tangent. I think I'm gonna do after the 6 women. I want to do Shakespeare because a lot of things that we talk about today came from Shakespeare. Like a lot of words. I heard on the radio today that yo mama jokes came from Shakespeare. Like a lot of stuff comes from Shakespeare, and I think that'll be really exciting. So
yeah,
but we're gonna do
Let's
6
talk about some of the like theories and
We're gonna do 6 right now because to lead up to our getting tickets.
Also,
to see 6
because I want to know everything that happens leading up, so I know the information on top of my head.
We need to know the history to enjoy the play. You feel me?
Anyway, that's it.
Yeah, that's all we got.
That's all I got.
All right. Well, sorry this one's late. We've had a busy week. We've had many friend dinners, and we're very popular. So.
Honestly, too many friend dinners for 1 week.
But we love our friends. And we want to keep having dinner.
I didn't go to last night's because I was busy.
But anyway, we've been busy this week. So, anyway, that's all I have. Do all the things, like and subscribe and blah, blah, blah.
Unless you don't want to.
Yeah, whatever you want.